What happens when the game stops, but you're not ready to stop playing? I've worked with a lot of athletes, especially pitchers, who didn't just lose strength after an injury, they lost their sense of identity. On this episode, I want to share how I help athletes navigate one of the hardest parts of rehab that no one talks about, the mental side. Because the truth is, when a player goes down, they don't just need exercises, they need to feel seen, understood, and still connected to the game they love. And that's something I take seriously as a physical therapist and someone who's been around the game for a while. Welcome back to the Mound Ready podcast, the show where baseball players, parents, and coaches learn how to protect their arms, build real strength, and get back to dominating on the field. I'm your host, Dr. Dominic Rangel. Let's jump into today's episode and get you one step closer to being mound ready. What's up, y'all? Welcome back. If you're tuning in on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you're following along on Spotify, then make sure you follow me for all the upcoming information that I'm about to give in all the episodes. And just so you're aware, whenever you hear this sound, then you know that we're moving on to the next topic. Okay? And so let's go ahead and dive on into the topic that we're going to be talking about today. So the biggest thing is that you're more than just an injury. One of the first things I do when I meet a player who's injured is super simple. I remind them first and foremost that they're not broken. Because for a lot of these guys, being hurt just doesn't just really slow them down. It makes them question who they are as an athlete. I've had athletes tell me, if I can't pitch, then I don't really feel like myself. And dude, that's real. That's not weakness. That's identity loss. And you can't fix that with a resistance band and a checklist of KPIs. So the way I approach rehab, it's not just sets and reps. I make sure that when we sit down, they're involved in the decisions too. They know exactly what the goal is and what we're working toward. I always let them voice their frustrations. And if we need to modify a session here and there so they can just mentally reset, then, we can do that, right? We do it quickly. We have to do it really quickly, but it's time well needed. You got to give yourself that time to get over that mental barrier, right? You're initially going to be in denial about the fact that the injury even happened. You're going to slowly start to accept that it's happening, right? The phases that most people and athletes go through is denial, anger, depression, and acceptance. So they're going to deny that it even happened, right? It's like, oh, I'm not hurt. That didn't happen. I'm totally fine. No big deal. And then they're going to realize, man, this is dumb. Like, I absolutely hate this. I'm so incredibly mad about it. And then they're going to get depressed about it and be sad. And then they're going to just not want to do anything. Right. And then eventually they're going to accept it. And so they're going to go through these phases. And it's not always a perfect linear progression through those phases. Sometimes they're going to bounce back and forth. So sometimes it's about just really giving them the space that they need to talk. And other times I might walk them through the plan again and show them like why. So when you know the why and the purpose behind the process, it gets so much easier to buy into it. And then they get back on the horse. Because when you're back on the horse, then you start to feel like yourself again. So the next thing is keeping them connected to the game. So I also do everything I can to keep them connected to the game in some form or fashion. That might look different depending on the athlete, but I've seen how powerful it really can be, right? Sometimes I'll have a pitcher help another athlete warm up if they're able to throw. But just so, like, whenever they do that, they feel like they're in it still. Or I'll ask them to explain a part of the throwing program to a younger person who's there. Or I'll have them record a video of them doing something really good in the process for social media. Or they'll talk about the old days when it was all just about absolutely loving the game. All these things seem so small in the grand scheme of everything that's going on, but those moments help them feel useful. It's like you're a teammate again. You're not just a solo person who's injured, and you're not just someone that's sitting on the sidelines. That's big, and that's a small win every single time that they get to do those things. If they're part of the team, then I'll talk to the coach or the athletic trainer, and I'll just encourage them to keep the athlete involved during practices or games with whatever limited capacity that they need. Even if it's just like charting pitches or helping with warm-ups, mentally, that's a big deal for these people. It's because when you're recovering, you don't want to feel forgotten. And as a PT, I feel like it's part of my job to make sure that the athlete still feels like an athlete and really not just a patient. And so rehab that's built on the mindset part of the game too. One thing I've learned over the last few years really is that rehab isn't just about the shoulder or the elbow and what those things can do. It's about helping the athletes build their confidence in who they're becoming after the injury. So we track the progress a little bit differently in this case. Like I'm measuring range of motion, strength, but I'm also checking in on things like, are they trusting their body again? Are they starting to move without hesitation? Are they feeling like themselves in the gym? Like, are they lifting the amount of weight that they did before? Are they hesitant because they're worried that they're going to injure themselves or that the pain's going to start up again? In a lot of the past podcasts, we talk a lot about KPIs, right? Those are our key performance indicators, but there are emotional KPIs too. Like when a player tells me, that felt like me again. Like that's a huge milestone. The fact that they feel like themselves again, despite the fact that they're not quite where they're supposed to be. Like I'll be honest, some days they're going to feel like they went backwards. It's like two steps back to go one step forward, right? Or one step back to go two steps forward. But in those moments, that's where I show them what's already improved, right? Like this is where you were and this is where you're going. They need to know what's improved, what's next, and how far they've come at this point because rehab has to be just as much about building belief as it is about building. Now, this section is really for the parents and the coaches. Now, if you're a parent or coach and you're listening to this, here's what I'd like to tell you. This is where you can make the biggest impact. The athlete already feels like they're falling behind. So the best thing that you can do is be a support system and remind them of the long game, right? The the injury is a small setback and hill or barrier to the length of their career, right? You have to ask them questions about how they're feeling, what they're going through, because it's going to help them feel like you're invested in who they are and not just what they do on the field or what their performance is like. It's not like you're, it's not like a all or nothing. There has to be an in between. And as the parent and the coach, you're that in between. Without y'all support, the athlete's gonna really struggle with this mental side of the game. You have to support them when they're frustrated, and you have to, have to celebrate the small wins because those keep momentum alive during the rehab. If we're not celebrating those small wins, it feels like they're not really going anywhere. Like, yeah, we can, oh hey, you reached this KPI. If I'm not like, man, that was so good. Like I'm so proud of you. Like that was awesome. Or maybe it's like, hey, you just did 2 hand plyos a day and your elbow didn't bother you at all. Like that's huge, man. You're making huge strides to being able to do the next step, which is single arm plyometrics. And then a lot of times you can see that really light up on their face. If the parent is there and they're also giving that feedback and the coach is there and they're also giving that feedback, I mean, that's going to really help them focus on returning to themselves first. And that mindset is going to carry them a lot further than any rehab or throwing program ever could. You are literally the bridge between where they are and where they can be. Like I said before, without y'all, I mean, we're just spinning our wheels. So if you're listening to this and you've been feeling like the game is slipping away because of an injury, just know you're not alone and you're really not done. You're just getting started. What you're going through is super hard, but I've seen athletes come out on the other side stronger, more focused, and more grounded because they committed to doing the work mentally and physically. If you need help navigating that rehab process the right way, whether it's shoulder, elbow, back, knee, hip, doesn't matter, or you're really just not feeling like yourself, you know, comment on this video or send me a message somehow. Let's help you get your identity back and get you mound ready.